Welcome back to Canadian Justice, where we're discussing the case of Ahluwalia and Ahluwalia headed to the Supreme Court about a new tort called family violence. Now, Anthony, in this case, there was this finding of a tort of family violence. There were also charges against the husband related to criminal offenses that he'd committed against the wife. Maybe you can explain what role the existence of criminal charges might have in in a family law claim, including when there's something like this new tort of family law violence. What relevance do those charges have on the proceedings?
Well, in the lower court's decision, the court took the position that not to say the charges were irrelevant, but they weren't given any weight because the charges were still before the court and there hadn't been any conviction. Practically speaking, the family court there's a lower burden. It's the balance of probabilities. So it's a little easier to persuade a family court judge that a criminal event occurred as opposed to a criminal court judge. Just because somebody is charged with a criminal offense, even if they're acquitted, there could still be a finding that the allegations occurred. And I think that's what happened in this case. That even though the husband was not convicted, he was just charged. The court was persuaded by the wife's testimony because the court believed it to be credible.
Now, Stefan, one of the things that is interesting to me about this case is that there was this really large award of damages, or what I would consider a large award of damages, $150,000 for this tort of family violence. I mean, how frequently do you think that this would come up when divorce or separation proceedings involve splitting a shrinking pool of assets generally? How often do you think it is that there would be this pockets deep enough among the litigants for someone to claim for 150,000 in damages? I mean, are we in the realm that there's really only a small percentage of the population that is actually going to have access to this tort? Or could this be something that maybe a home insurance policy might cover? Because I know that there can be all kinds of unusual situations where your home insurance policy might come into play. Would this perhaps be one of them?
So there's a lot to unpack there. So I'll start with that last bit, the insurance claim. What's interesting is that this is an intentional tort, and usually most insurance policies will exclude liability for intentional torts. So whether this new tort is recognized or we go with the Court of Appeals approach and just use the existing torts, those are all what's called intentional torts. They're not negligence. And usually most insurance policies will refuse to cover that. And there's quite a bit of case law on this that kind of affirms their right to do so. Um, the other issue is, well, even in this case, do we know that the husband actually had the pockets to pay for this? This is coming back to your last question with the sort of primacy given to the statutory distribution of property scheme. What the court is saying, Court of Appeal is saying, is do that first, and essentially, if there's any money left over, then you can consider awarding it in damages if there's a tort. Now, this isn't exceptional. This is how torts just generally work, right? I can sue anybody in the civil claim, and if they have money, great, I can get that money from them. But if they don't, then that's the end of it. That's the nature of a civil claim. It's different from criminal liability in that sense. The point is to obtain redress for the wrong that someone else has caused me. It's not about punishing the person for committing a crime.
So, Anthony, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, you're a family law practitioner. You've said that it's unusual for claims of tort to come up in family law proceedings. What do you think the practical implications of of either any result at the Supreme Court, whether the tort is upheld or whether it's overturned? What would be the on the ground implications be for families dealing with abuse?
I think it would give family lawyers another tool in the toolbox to use to even the playing field in situations where there's domestic violence. We know that more often than not, the victims of domestic violence are less financially stable than the perpetrators. So that would certainly be an advantage. But at the end of the day, it depends on how much money is in the till. In this case, there was a house, and the court ordered that the wife would receive the entire value of the equity in the house plus a little bit more as part of the tort award and the equalization award. So I think that there would, if there's no money, then is it worth pursuing a tort claim? Probably not.
Yeah. We've got to go to commercial break now, but we'll continue this conversation when we come back.